It was supposed to be fireworks. The 4th of July, 1987, New Mexico State Penitentiary, North Unit, just outside Santa Fe. While families across the state were planning picnics and sky bursts of red and blue, a different kind of celebration was about to begin behind concrete and razor wire. The kind that ends with blood, sirens, and a statewide warning that the monsters are loose. If you're into true crime that feels like a movie but reads like a case file, hit subscribe. Follow right now, because what you're about to hear is one of the most audacious prison breaks in American history, and the ending still leaves a question nobody can answer. The desert sky is black, the wind snapping at razor wire. Inside the North Unit, Level 6, the end-of-the-line men sleep with one eye open. This isn't county jail. This is where the state keeps the worst. Killers, serial rapists, armed robbers with long memories and longer sentences. Every door is steel. Every hallway is concrete. Every routine is a ritual, repeated so often it becomes a lullaby. Guards count heads, slide trays, check locks, watch the same corners on the same schedule. In a place like this, routine is supposed to be stronger than rage. But routine is also predictable, and predictability is a weapon if the wrong man learns how to use it. William Wayne Gilbert has learned it. To staff, Gilbert is a silhouette with a mop. Quiet. Reliable. Not the kind who screams at the slot or bangs a cup against bars. He's the kind who takes the janitor job and keeps it. He moves through corridors like he belongs there. A man who looks like work, not trouble. A guard will nod at him and keep walking. A supervisor will glance up, see the bucket, see the familiar face, and feel their shoulders loosen. The prison runs on small assumptions. Gilbert lives inside those assumptions like a parasite. He isn't just cleaning. He's studying patterns, posts, timing, and the little human shortcuts that turn security into habit. And on this one morning, Gilbert stops being invisible. As dawn begins, he produces a gun. Not a shank, not a sharpened toothbrush. A real firearm, a .22 caliber revolver. Small enough to hide, big enough to turn a prison into a hostage scene in seconds. Investigators will spend weeks tearing apart logs, searching lockers, interrogating staff, trying to find out how a revolver entered the most secure unit in the state. That answer never comes clean. No confession. No recovered weapon. Just the cold fact that it was there. Gilbert steps into a moment he has rehearsed in his head 100 times. He confronts an officer at close range. The muzzle is a sentence. The officer freezes, because training meets terror, and terror. Gilbert forces access into the nerve center, the place that controls doors and life. In the chaos, a second officer is shot and wounded. It's the kind of sound that changes the air in a building. A gunshot doesn't echo like a movie. It cracks. It slaps. It tells everyone within earshot that the rules have died. Within minutes, 6 more cell doors open. James Neal Jimmy Kinslow, already infamous for violence, serving 2 consecutive life sentences. David Benjamin Gallegos Jr., Michael Robert Romero, John M. Schmidt, Hector Torres, Robert Davis, a former lawman turned criminal. Names that look like paperwork until they're the ones walking toward you in a hallway. 7 men, suddenly together, suddenly moving with purpose. They execute. They push into the control area, neutralize who they have to neutralize, and use the prison's own systems, doors, locks, procedures as if they built them. Then they climb a maintenance ladder, an emergency hatch, a roof line that most inmates never see. The plan isn't just to get out of cells. It's to get out of the world that contains cells. Up on the roof, the wind hits them like a slap. For a second, they are exposed. A line of fugitives against the morning sky. The kind of sight that should trigger every alarm and tower gun in the place. But the North Unit is not the fortress everyone wants to believe it is. There are gaps. There are failures. There are sensors that don't work the way the manual says they should, some in disrepair. Some dead because budgets were cut and maintenance was postponed, and we'll fix it later became policy. Later is too late. They drag a guard with them as a hostage, not to torture him, not to lecture him, just to buy time. They cross the roof with the nervous certainty of men who have practiced this walk in their minds until it feels like memory. They find the point where the perimeter fence meets the building, where an 1.8-foot chain link wall is less an obstacle than an idea. They cuff the guard to the fence alive, shaken, breathing, and then the 7 drop over the other side. They vanish into the scrubland beyond the prison. The guard forces himself into motion. He finds a phone. He calls it in. The first alarm rips through the penitentiary like a scream. Inside, the fortress wakes up and realizes it has been robbed. A head count is called. Radios crackle. Officers sprint down corridors that suddenly feel too narrow. Doors slam. Keys jangle. Someone shouts a number. Someone else repeats it, louder, as if volume can change reality. The count comes back wrong, and the wrongness spreads like a contagion. 7 empty cells. 7 missing bodies. 7 names that turn the air heavy. The warden is on the phone with the New Mexico State Police. Within minutes, the call fans out into the kind of statewide panic that can't be contained. Roadblocks. Checkpoints. Patrol cars stacked nose to tail on highways. Deputies from tiny counties and tribal officers along the Rio Grande clip radios to their vests and try to imagine what it looks like when an inmate who has nothing left to lose decides your traffic stop is his last stand. 9 units hit the ground. For a while, the trail seems hot footprints, broken brush, a direction. Then the scent dies near Interstate 25 like a switch flipped. Too clean. Too sudden. The kind of ending that suggests a waiting car. Outside help. A plan that didn't start this morning. A plan that started in whispers. In notes smuggled through laundry. In conversations held through vents and glances. In the command post, investigators start asking the questions nobody wants to answer out loud. Who smuggled the gun? Who knew which posts were unmanned? Who knew what cameras were dead? What alarms didn't chirp? What corners the guards ignored because they were safe? News bulletins hit the airwaves. Mugshots go up everywhere. And then the governor makes the kind of decision that draws a hard line in the sand. Use the National Guard, seal roads, and, if necessary, authorize pursuers to shoot to kill. That sentence travels faster than any squad car. It hardens the posture of every officer on the hunt, and it terrifies every civilian who realizes that a traffic stop or a noise in the yard could become a battlefield before anyone even understands why. Days pass. The heat rises. Tips pour in most dead ends, yet every caller knows it only takes one mistake for a home to become a crime scene. The first real break comes from vigilance, not gunfire. Near a racetrack a couple miles from the prison, a security guard spots a man moving wrong, too tired, too alert, like he's trying to look casual while his whole body screams flight. The guard confronts him, cuffs him, calls for backup. When officers arrive, the name hits them like an electric shock. Hector Torres, one of the 7, exhausted, disoriented, captured not by a tactical team, but by an ordinary man who trusted his instincts. It should feel like relief. Instead, it raises the stakes. If one of them is close, the others might be close too. And the worst of them, the ones who can think, who can lead, are still out. Tips flood in. Some are nonsense, some are desperate, some are real. A teenage girl in a quiet suburb sees a man trying doors and windows. She calls police and whispers descriptions into the phone like she's afraid the air itself might betray her. The man flees. Police find evidence of a petty theft, food, maybe a bag, a sign that the fugitives are scavenging. The girl identifies David Gallegos. SWAT teams sweep the area. Houses are searched. Yards are combed. No one is found. The neighborhood goes back to quiet, but the quiet has changed. Every lock click sounds louder now. Then, 85 miles south, a highway patrol officer pulls over a truck for a routine stop. A tarp shifts. A body is hiding beneath it, breathing shallow, eyes wide. The officer yanks the cover back and finds Robert Davis, former cop turned convict, captured on the road like a man who tried to ride freedom out of the state and ran out of luck. Davis's arrest is more than one less fugitive. It's a crack in the wall of silence. Under interrogation, the pressure finally splits him. He starts talking, piecing together the escape, the roles, the movements, the direction, and the manhunt pivots hard toward the last 3. Gilbert, Kinslow, and Gallegos ghosts slipping through the borderlands. The names that haunt every briefing. Weeks bleed by. Roadblocks thin. The last 3 become ghosts, slipping farther with every sunrise. And then the violence catches up to them in the way it always does when desperate men decide that strangers are just resources. In Flagstaff, Arizona, in the early morning hours of the 29th of July 1987, Kinslow breaks into a family home. Not a random shed, not a vacant cabin, someone's living room, someone's safe place. He is armed. A .357 Magnum revolver and a .22 caliber revolver. The kind of weapons that turn please into now. He forces control fast, tying up members of the family, turning their own house into a cage. He steals food, money, whatever keeps him moving. And then he escalates, because men like Kinslow don't just want to survive, they want power. He takes the parents and their 1-year-old daughter, Melina Blades, and forces them into their own car. The desert becomes a rolling hostage scene. Hundreds of miles of highway where every passing patrol car is either salvation or doom. Kinslow drives with the kind of focus that only a hunted man can sustain. The family's terror becomes his fuel. At a motel, he ties up the parents in a room and leaves them behind. Then he takes Melina alone. That single decision changes the case from manhunt to emergency, because now it isn't just about catching fugitives. It's about saving a child. They cross into California. Kinslow heads toward Garden Grove, trying to connect with the other escapees. The plan is collapsing, but he still believes in it. One more meetup, one more vehicle, one more step toward disappearing into a city big enough to swallow a name. But Melina is braver than he expects. In the deep night, in a residential area, Kinslow stops the car. He tells her to wait while he goes to meet someone. He believes fear will glue her to the spot. He believes she is small enough to control with a sentence. When he drives away, Melina spots a marked patrol car and runs toward it, hands waving, voice shaking, but clear enough to matter. She tells them what happened. She gives details that only a victim could know. The vehicle, the direction, the man, and suddenly the case snaps into focus. Officers aren't hunting a rumor anymore. They're hunting a target. In the pre-dawn darkness, SWAT teams move with the careful speed of people who know one mistake could cost a child her life. They close in. There is no cinematic shootout, no heroic slow-motion tackle. There is a flashbang, a rush, a flood of voices shouting commands. Kinslow is taken without resistance, weapons scattered on the floor like dropped lies. And when Kinslow realizes the game is over, he does what desperate men do. He bargains. He gives up Gilbert. He gives up Gallegos. He tells the FBI where they are nearby, hiding in a motel, sweating out the last hours of freedom behind thin curtains. Agents move fast. A raid, a door breached, boots on carpet, the air thick with adrenaline. In seconds, William Gilbert and David Gallegos are face down, hands wrenched behind them, the escape collapsing into cuffs. 7 men out, 7 men back in. The headlines declare victory. The streets of Santa Fe exhale. The state tells itself the story is finished. But the North Unit still holds one unanswered question. How? How did a .22 revolver get into level 6? How did Gilbert, whose death sentence had been commuted to life, become not just an inmate, but an architect of chaos? How did a prison designed to hold the worst men in the state fall in minutes? Why was there no guard in the right tower at the right time? Why were critical systems dead or ignored until the day they mattered? Investigators tear through visitor logs, staff schedules, maintenance reports. They interview officers who swear they saw nothing, heard nothing, suspected nothing. They search for the gun, because the gun is the missing piece that could point to a hand on the outside or a hand on the inside. But the weapon never surfaces. No one claims it. No one confesses to smuggling it. The most important object in the case disappears like it was never real. And that absence is what makes the Santa Fe 7 more than a simple escape story. It becomes a mirror held up to every prison in America, reflecting the truth nobody wants to admit. Systems don't fail only because of one dramatic mistake. They fail because of 1,000 small compromises, underfunded maintenance, understaffed towers, complacency, shortcuts. The belief that it can't happen here is the same as security. Afterward, New Mexico overhauls security alarms, surveillance, staffing, training, while prosecutors stack fresh charges onto already brutal sentences. The men are separated and buried deeper, so they can never move as one again. But even as the case file closes, the shadow stays. Because the escape did not happen in a vacuum. It happened in a real building with real people making real choices, and somewhere in that chain of choices, someone helped on purpose or by negligence so profound it looks like collaboration. A guard who looked away, a supervisor who ignored a broken sensor, a visitor who slipped more than cigarettes through the glass, a staff member who believed a quiet inmate with a mop could never be a threat, or something worse. The Santa Fe 7 proved that the strongest wall is only as strong as the human being who believes in it. And when that belief cracks, when routine turns into complacency, steel becomes theater. So here's the question that keeps wardens awake when the wind rattles razor wire at night. If 7 men did it once, with a gun nobody ever found and a plan nobody ever fully mapped, what's stopping the next 7? Want another true crime breakdown like this? Comment what case to cover next and follow so you don't miss it.